Welcome to the Dome Discussions Podcast. Your top source for all things New Orleans Saints. Powered by four voices who live and breathe black and gold. Touchdown! Every hit, every play.
Welcome to the NFL.
Every moment. We've got it covered.
Let's go! Let's go! Go!
What's going on, Who Dat Nation? Appreciate everybody tuning into the Dome Discussions podcast, part of Being the Know Network. I'm Kyle Besson. Today I'm being joined here by Caleb Yacarino. Sadly, today's episode, we are not going to be joined by Drew or Nick. Both are out today, and today's episode might be a little shorter because of that. But me and Caleb are going to come with you guys with a preview for Saints versus Seahawks. Now, before we get into the Saints and Seahawks matchup, there's a little bit of news for the Saints. We never went over the Saints trade for Jalen Polk. So, Caleb, I wanted to ask you how you feel about the trade and, what does this mean for the Saints? Is this a big trade? Is it minimal? How big is it?
Yeah, I think it means a little bit more about the team than the player itself. This is definitely not a win now move. This is a look to the future. Hopefully find a hidden gem in Jalen Polk. If you do not know who Jalen Polk is, he was a former second-round pick of the New England Patriots, and just last year he was selected and never really – he dealt with injuries and also really struggled with drops, didn't do well in his first season. So his time at the Patriots was always going to be short after that season, and he came into this season with an injury, even though that he played well in preseason and training camp. So they just kind of cut bait, traded him for a future sixth-round pick, I think in 2027, and the Saints got back got a seventh-round pick with Jalen Polk. He's going to be a similar receiver to what the Saints already have. I think he's 6 foot, he's kind of a contested catch threat, but not going to be that big body receiver, kind of like Vele is. So he's going to be someone like the Saints already have, but with how this wide receiver room currently is, and with the future kind of being uncertain with it, with Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave going into contract years, having a backup option for the future is always a good idea. And it also is important that injury. He is out for the season. He's not going to play this season. It's fully a future bet.
Yeah, and for me, this trade, it's only a win for the Saints. They did a pick swap for the 2026. It's a 2027 sixth-round pick, and they're swapping that for a 2028 seventh-round pick from the Patriots. So they're still getting a draft. It's just a swap. And yeah, they're missing out on a sixth-round pick, not from this upcoming draft, but the draft after that. And you got a guy that was selected in the second round a year ago. Yes, he's dealing with injuries. Yes, he's out for the year. But you're not losing much. And like you said, Caleb, this is a guy that's got a lot of upside. He's very promising. And the Saints have had wide receiver depth problems for a few years now. At the very worst, he is a wide receiver depth piece that the Saints got for a sixth-round pick from 2 years out. And I've seen a lot of people kind of rumor that this could mean the Saints are shopping Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed or looking to move on from one of their wide receivers. I don't see that. I really hope a 2027 round pick or 2027 sixth-round pick is enough for you to want to move on from your young studs that you have here. But to me, this move is just about getting depth, building pieces. You got an offensive-minded head coach, a guy. He's always going to be looking towards, building towards his offense. That's what adding Jalen Polk does. Very talented guy. Hopefully he can stay healthy for the Saints. And even worst case scenario, you didn't lose much for him.
Yeah, and speaking on his talent, he was the number 2 wide receiver on the Washington team that went to the national championship and lost to Michigan with Michael Penix and Rome Odunze. This is a very talented wide receiver. He just had a really bad first season, and the whole Patriots team was bad, but it kind of just makes it worse when you can't bounce back in your year 2, and that's why they got rid of him. On the pick, if people are worried about the picks, let's be real, the Saints are probably going to get a comp pick from a free agent leaving and completely just replacing that pick in 2027. It's such a minuscule pick. I get the slight outroar with the Vele trade because that was a more expensive trade, but this one, it's full upside, no risk. Why not do it?
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm gonna say I like the Saints' aggressiveness, but they haven't been scared to trade those picks to get players that they believe can make an immediate impact. We'll get into injuries in a little bit, but they traded for a Sim Richards, and he's probably going to get us like he might not get the start on Sunday coming up, but he's probably going to see some play time. I mean, the Saints are already having tackle problems right now, and that's a depth piece that they traded for, who is now probably going to get play time for the Saints. Same with Luke Fortner. Maybe Luke Fortner ends up getting playtime for the Saints. Like the Saints are being aggressive with how they add to their depth. They don't want to just run the free agency. They want a guy who actually can make an impact and rise up when he's called on. And that's what they've been doing with trading for these guys. But
Yeah,
now move into. Or do you want to go before?
yeah, real quick. And then there was the rumor also like with the Packers. Is it Quay Walker, the
Yeah, Quay
linebacker,
Walker.
that the Saints offered a fourth round pick? I'm pretty sure, which like that would have been a trade. He's a highly important player, or he's a very important player, I think, on that Packers defense. That would have been a trade. I would have been like, okay, guys, let's calm down a little bit. But I do not care if the Saints are drafting late round picks to get depth pieces that look, if there's injuries happening and they go in, or you could re-sign after the season for a cheap deal, or they're on contract and you're now going to have depth going into next season when next season is going to be a lot more important than this season.
Yeah, and I saw the Quay Walker rumors as well. I didn't know how much I trusted them, to be honest with you. I believe the source was just one guy. Then, I
Mhm.
can't always go off of if it ain't Ian Rappaport, I don't believe it. No, but yeah, I don't know how much, but that also still shows a lot of people have said the Saints have been calling for a guy, and I mean some of those have to be true. That's got to be so. The Saints have been aggressive with looking to add talent. And if you can get somebody who you believe can make an immediate impact or is a young, because most of these guys that are going after are pretty young as well, young who has a lot of potential and can, elevate your team down the line, then go ahead and do it. But just make sure you're not, you keep the draft picks that are really going to matter. Your first,
Yeah,
second, and third. We know we saw them move on from the fourth, and I believe a fourth round pick is a very valuable pick. So now you got to hope Devon Vele lives up to that fourth round pick.
100%. And he's already shown a little bit of that already. Like, I love him in this offense.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the last time we saw. A little before we go to the injury report. I don't know the last time we saw a quick slant like that since Michael Thomas. That I
That's
mean,
the same thought I had right when I saw it. I was like, oh, Michael Thompson's back on this team. Thank God.
is a boxing out the
Wonderful.
cornerback and catching the ball. That was beautiful. Honestly, that was probably my favorite play from Sunday. But let's go ahead and get into our injuries. For the Saints on from Thursday, Taliese Fuanga, Dylan Radins, and Chase Young did not participate. Dylan Radins actually has already been ruled out because the Saints are traveling on Thursday. So Dylan Radins, they'll be without him. And Trevor Penning was limited. I actually don't have it on here, but I believe Devon Vele was also added with a hip injury,
Yep.
and he was limited. And Trey Palmer did not participate for the Saints after being limited on Wednesday. For the Seahawks, Zach Charbonnet, Nick Monwarrier, Julian Love, and Devin Witherspoon all out through Wednesday and Thursday. All four of those guys haven't played. I think we can clearly see that they are going to have some secondary issues. Devin Witherspoon, one of the most up and coming cornerbacks in this league, and through two practices, he hasn't played. I don't know if he'll be back on Friday, which is when we're recording this. And even if he does play, he's going to be coming back dealing with an injury. Same goes with Julian Love, one of the most prestige safeties in this league. Another guy who hasn't practiced through 2 days. If he even plays, he's going to obviously not be 100%. And their second round rookie safety, I believe it's Amon Warrior.
Mhm.
Something wrong. He's a stud of a player, a guy that I had at the Saints mock draft him. He's also dealing with injury. I believe his is an ankle.
Yeah, and Zach Charbonnet is like still the backup running back and important to this team. So like these looking at it from the Saints perspective with the Seahawks injuries, could be a massive break for this offense with those injuries that the Seahawks have. If they are out, even if they're banged up, that's going to be a massive break because I think the Seahawks defense is going to be a little difficult for the Saints. So they need it. Looking at it, the Saints side, I think Trevor Penning could be healthy for this game. I don't know if I want to rush him into the left guard spot right away. I'm totally fine with putting Torricelli Simpkins there. He played well during the preseason. Why not put him at left guard and see what you have? Because the uncertainty with Penning's future on this team and Raiden's future on this team because they're both not under contract after this year. But Simpkins is. Why not see what you have? Let him play and it's a difficult game for him with this matchup. Let him play and see what you have. Guard is a big issue with this team, so that's one thing. If Bailey's out, I'm very worried about this wide receiver core. Again, with the cornerback injuries on the Seahawks side, it's a little bit better. But with Bailey out, Juwan Johnson's going to have a massive game. I could already see that happening. And just getting rid of that contested catch for that Veli could have is very scary. Like that's one of those that I would be very scared about. Same with Fuaga, uncertainty at right tackle. The injuries are clear in the first 2 weeks. I don't want to rush him either. We just saw with Ryan Ramczyk what I know that he was on the injury report for a back injury, but his knee's still not healthy. Also, we just saw what playing through a knee injury can do with Ryan Ramczyk. I'm not risking that with Fuaga. I don't care. And then with Chase Young, it's going to be, I think Cat 12 ESPN said it's doubtful that he plays. That's very scary too. I want Chase Young to play. Every time Chase Young does not play, I'm scared of the edge rush group, even though the starters are playing well.
Yeah, for me, I think Penning has a strong chance of making his season debut. He's limited now. He's dealing with turf toe. He's limited. He's playing through it, and the Saints already ruled out Dylan Radins, and I feel like that's kind of an indicator that Penning will play. And like you said, Simpkins, if Penning ends up still dealing with some of these injuries, he can make his season debut as well. Fuaga, I'm 100% with you, though. I don't think you rush Fuaga. I don't think you make him play through it, especially since I said the Saints traded for Sims Richards for this same reason. Look, there's two ways you can do this. You can shuffle the line around, throw Penning at right tackle, and have Torrelli Simpkins play. So you can kind of have Simpkins play there, or you can put Penning where you believe he's going to play, which I believe the Saints are going to do, is have Penning play at left guard. And Richards played pretty good over his time that he's played. He's played pretty well. He's played, I would say, well enough to earn his spot at the right tackle while Fuag is out. Chase Young will definitely be a hit. But we've seen what the Saints pass rush has done without him here. Getting him back isn't as urgent as, keeping him healthy for the rest of the year. The Saints have 8 sacks in 2 games this season, 5 of them on Kyler Murray, 3 of them on Mac Jones. And while their pressure numbers aren't outstanding, Carl Granderson, he's leading the league in sacks. He's tied. He's got 3.5. We saw what Cameron Jordan could do. Look, I think Chase Young can sit it out, but I do want to see Penning out there in some capacity. And either, I don't know if you put him at right tackle. I don't know if you put him at left guard. I believe they put him at left guard. Just figure it out and have your line healthy. I think this is the second week in a row where, this is unusual for us as, covering the Saints, where the injury report is longer for the other team than it is for the Saints. This is back-to-back weeks now. The Saints couldn't capitalize last week. I mean, they were without Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Jawan Jennings is dealing with injury. He had a 42-yard touchdown. These guys are hurt, and they still were able to get the win over the Saints. I know we kind of alarmed the panic bells last week. We were like, if the Saints can't win this, it's over. We came out feeling a little bit better. I'll be honest. We may have been a little dramatic when previewing it last week that the Saints need to win that game. Or no, look, the Seahawks are going to be injured, probably not as injured offensively at least as the 49ers were, but I'd like to see the Saints take advantage of the injuries for the Seahawks. But like we may be going against what we said last week, don't have to ring the bells if the Saints can't. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and get into the Seahawks preview because the Saints will be traveling to Seattle in the all whites with the white helmet, debut of the white helmets. That's important. I want to get into that later because I'm really excited to talk about my bold prediction. But the Seahawks are 1-1. They lost week 1 to the 49ers and they won week 2 against the Steelers. I don't know if anyone saw, they had that goofy touchdown where Caleb Johnson let the ball bounce into the end zone and the Seahawks just recovered it. Sam Darnold has 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the season. He's been sacked 3 times. JSN has 227 receiving yards and Cooper Kupp has 105. And their defense has accumulated 4 interceptions over 2 games. And despite being 1-1, they are 4th in the NFC West. So the NFC West has been playing some good football through 2 weeks. Is there anything that you want to kind of go over with some of the numbers I said or anything about the Seahawks that alarm you? Maybe what the Saints could take advantage of? Or
yeah, there's 3 different things I want to cover real quick. So one, If there was ever a game Spencer Rattler threw his first touchdown or interception of the season, it would be this game. Just even with the injuries, like this is going to be a little bit of a harder game for Spencer Rattler. Harder. I don't know if it's harder than well, I thought it was gonna be easy week one, to be fair, but it wasn't. I thought it was gonna be harder next or last week, and he had his best game. So still, I think this could be the hardest matchup for Spencer Rattler right now, even with the injuries, just because this is a good coach defense. But looking at the matchups also, I want to focus on the staying on the defense, the defensive line for the Seahawks, because if Penning is injured, or sorry, if Penning is injured and Simpkins goes in, if Penning goes in at left guard, whatever happens at left guard, it's going to be definitely one to watch with the Seahawks defensive line because it's not going to be dominant, but it's going to be a good defensive line. And I think the tackles can hold their own, even with Flaga being up. I don't know if the interior offensive line can hold their own. And Cesar Ruiz is not playing well either. So Eric McCoy might be on an island trying to block three people. Like that's really something I could see happen in the middle of this game. With the Saints defensive line, also Seahawks rookie Gray Zabel, my 2025 NFL draft darling, is playing really well and could give the interior defensive line of the Saints some fits, and it could be pretty ugly at times. And then the last one is the Seahawks passing game could expose the Saints again. This could be another game where the cornerback room, if it's the same lineup as last week and it's just not working out, this could be another game that this defense struggles. And it honestly might be a replay of last week.
Yeah, and I was looking at it earlier. PFF, you live by PFF, die by PFF. Their rankings aren't always the greatest. They have Sam Darnold with the 5th best overall grading for all quarterbacks this season. And I looked into a lot of numbers and everything because I wanted to see how well he was doing under pressure. He's been under pressure the 3rd most out of all quarterbacks this season. Yet he only has an 8% sack percentage. He's finding ways to get the ball out, throwaways, things like that. He's not in the face of pressure. He's getting out of it. And like I said, with the Saints had 8 sacks over the first 2 games, and that's kind of been what kept them in these games. I mean, if you look back at the Alontae Taylor sack that gave the Saints a chance to get the ball again, they had the strip sack, which gave the Saints a chance. So there was multiple times where a sack was what put the Saints back in the game, where the offense was stale. They needed some life, and a sack, either the Alontae Taylor sack in week 1 that forced a punt, or the Chris Rump strip sack that gave the Saints the ball back again to become within 1 score. And Sam Darnold just isn't doing that. He's not taking these sacks despite staring in the face of the pressure, the 3rd most in the league. He's only being sacked on 8% of his dropbacks, or not 8% of dropbacks, 8% of staring down these pressures. So the Saints have to find a way to take them down. And I kind of want to go back to one thing that you said. I know we're going to talk about key matchups a little bit more later. But one of the things that you said was their interior defensive line and the Saints' interior offensive line. You're 100% right, because if Trevor Penning's coming back from injury, like I said, I predict he's still going to go to left guard, meaning you have a underperforming Cesar Ruiz. Let's just go back to PFF. He's ranked 86 out of 88 of all guards. That's not a good rating at all. I believe his full grade was 35.9.
Yeah, it was bad.
Really bad. And again, PFF won't get everything right. It's not always going to be, you don't always live by what PFF says. But I mean, I think we've all seen it. There was a Twitter picture that went around, and it's like, here's your weekly picture of Cesar Ruiz facing the quarterback as his pass rusher. And that's true. There is probably each week. Now, look, I think Cesar Ruiz is better than he's playing, to be honest. I'll be devil's advocate. I do think he's a lot better than he plays, but how you play is who you are. So if you continuously let these things happen, there's only one way to look at it. And look, the Seahawks have a good defensive line as well. And interior, they have Byron Murphy. He's got 2 sacks over the 2 games from the defensive tackle. And then they have Jerron Reed. I believe that's who their other defense tackle is. And he's a veteran defensive tackle who has nearly 40 sacks in his career. So these guys can rush the passer from the interior, and the Saints have issues within the interior. So that's, I guess, an early key matchup that I am looking at, because the Saints need to protect Spencer Rattler if he wants any life to be able to win this game. We saw him throw 3 touchdowns last week. And, to be fair, he didn't take many sacks. He hasn't taken many sacks over the season. I think it's actually a lot on the play calling, getting the ball out fast. I know over the first few episodes, I was like, I think the offensive line is playing pretty well. And it is. They are playing pretty decently, but a lot of it's also thanks to Spencer Rattler getting that ball out quickly, being decisive and making these decisions. So the Saints need to protect Rattler if they want to give him a chance to come away with his first career win.
Yeah, and one of my bold predictions later, I'm going to explain it more and I'll get more into it, but it is a Rattler one. And get ready for it.
All right. So it looks like we're going to be moving on to trivia here, and it is just you. So
yeah, I suck at trivia. This is not going to be good. We're probably not going to get it. I'm not going to lie.
I'll be honest. I don't know if you get this one. This one would probably stump me pretty early. But let's go ahead and see how you could do on our trivia question. Since it's just Caleb here, if anyone's whoever's listening, let's see if you guys could get it. I think it's gettable, but it might take a little bit of thinking. All right. So his career path was he started his career with the Eagles, went to the Vikings, the Chiefs, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Bills.
So Eagles, Vikings,
Chiefs,
what was it?
Panthers,
Chiefs,
Saints,
Panthers.
Bills.
Panthers, Saints is an interesting one.
I'll be honest. If you get it, it's going to be from the Panthers to Saints.
Oh, no.
It'll be from Panthers to Saints.
Oh, God.
And whenever you want years, I could give you years.
Yeah, no, we're going to go with yours already.
All right. Eagles 2010 to 2013. He was in the Vikings with 2014 and the Chiefs in 2014. I'll be honest, I don't know if he was cut or traded. I don't have it here. Panthers from 2015 to 2017. He was a part of the glorious New Orleans Saints 2018 team. And he was in the Bills in 2019. It's going to be a hard one. Actually, so hard that I actually don't even have his name written down here.
Oh, God. What position?
He is a safety. Saint safety from 2018.
What? Oh, yeah, I'm not getting it.
It's Kurt Coleman.
I'm going to be so much. I wouldn't have gotten it.
You wouldn't have got it?
Not gonna lie.
The Panthers Saints is the only that's the biggest indicator there. Kurt Coleman. I thought it would have been a good one with everybody here. I was hoping to stump Nick with it.
Nick would have gotten it in a minute. And
all right. Well,
good.
Looks like the guys didn't miss much. The scoring is not going to go up from today. All right, but
let's go. My end.
Let's go ahead and move into key matchups. I actually want to start us off. So I just traded for Alvin Kamara in fantasy. I tried really hard this week because Alvin Kamara historically matches really well with the Seattle Seahawks. Completely different team. There's no actual correlation here. These are two different teams. But I do think the Saints need to get Alvin Kamara going. And the running backs have been doing pretty well. And I need to get the numbers, but I don't have the numbers 100% here. But basically for it is the Saints need to get Alvin Kamara going. In the past game, as a runner for sure. 4.5 yards a carry on 144 yards to start the year. He's been playing well. Alvin Kamara has been playing really good football. The Saints have just, unfortunately, been in some moments where they feel like they have to pass the ball and not run the ball as much as they should. But that is my key matchup, is just to get Alvin Kamara open, get him ready. That's my key to the game, is this should be an Alvin Kamara game. I don't need to see Spencer Rattler throw the ball more than 35 times. He's done it twice now. We don't need that. Alvin Kamara to run the ball. And look, we know there's injuries to the offensive line. And we know we're facing a pretty good Seahawks defensive line. But get Alvin Kamara the ball, get him the ball in space, run up the middle. Don't make it too complicated. Alvin Kamara has done everything. Now, the Saints, what's interesting about Saints running backs is we talked about it. The run blocking isn't as good as we have been hoped. The Saints have been met in the backfield. These running backs have been met in the backfield consistently. I wish I had the stat. I wish I would have saved it.
It was right at the line of scrimmage, and then they get 4 yards just from breaking tackles.
That's 100% what I'm talking about. The Saints have met defenders at the line of scrimmage the most out of the league, yet they're averaging 4.5 yards a carry. And that goes along with Kendre Miller as well. So honestly, my key matchups is just these Saints running backs versus, I guess, the whole Seattle defense, or, maybe versus their own O-line, is to just get these guys the ball and finally open up some space for them. Alvin Kamara, specifically because I have him in fantasy. I really need these guys to break out and have a big game. But going away from me trading for him in fantasy and everything, I think this is going to be a big day for AK. I want to see Kendra Miller finally get a few more touches. They kind of couldn't give him as much as they wanted to last week. Like I said, that game they kind of it went away from them a little earlier than they would have hoped. But this offense, a Kellen Moore offense, who ran the ball for over 2,000 yards with Saquon Barkley last year, needs to kind of look to give Alvin Kamara a lot of these touches. He said Alvin Kamara is going to be his bell cow running back, and I want to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big day for the running backs because, in my opinion, I think it's going to be a bad day for the running backs. I think it's going to be a really big struggle. The Seahawks have a good run defense. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're ranked like 9th in rushing yards allowed or around there. Like, this is a good run defense. And as you said, the offensive line has not been good blocking in the run game. And that, again, goes back to the guard play. The guard play has not been good enough. Cesar Ruiz and Dylan Radins have not been great at blocking in the run game and arguably in the pass game. So it's going to be an issue. And if Kellen Moore has showed us anything in the first 2 games, this could be easily a game he goes away from the run. And I think he might have to go away from the run because the issue is that if the running backs stop breaking tackles and not gaining those 4 yards, there's no running game with the blocking. And I think it could be one of those games. And I would say that Devin Neal could easily have a decent game because Alvin Kamara is not going to be the run up the middle and gain 4 yards just from strength. Same with Kendra Miller. Devin Neal, he can carry a pile of players and just gain yards. That's what the Saints are going to need in this game. And again, if they don't get that, Spencer Rattler is going to be throwing a lot. And that's why the Seahawks are causing turnovers because the quarterbacks have to throw. And that could easily be something that happens. With my matchup, I kind of talked about it before, but it's the Saints DBs versus the Seahawks wide receivers. You talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba, and you talked about Cooper Kupp. Those are 2 very good wide receivers. As we know, the Saints have not been very good covering wide receivers. This is like having 2 Marvin Harrison Jr.'s on the field. This is like having 2 Ricky Pearsalls on the field. You are going to have 2 wide receiver 1s on a team on the field. You currently do not have a cornerback 1. So this is going to be a massive test for the Saints, and it's going to be probably Kool-Aid. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Kool-Aid McKinstry against Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then if Cooper Kupp goes in the slot, it's going to be Alontae Taylor against Cooper Kupp or something like that. This is going to be a massive game because one of the other things that I did notice last game was that Brandon Staley took Kool-Aid McKinstry off the cornerback or the wide receiver 1. It was why am I forgetting his name? Cornerback 2 on the Saints.
You said who we look for?
Who was the cornerback on the Saints?
Isaac
that
Adam.
All the yards? Isaac Adam. I don't know why I forgot his
Isaac
name.
Adam. Yeah.
It was Isaac Adam covering the cornerback 1 or covering the wide receiver 1. He was cornerback 1 in the game against the 49ers. That should never happen. But it's based off of Kool-Aid struggling in week 1. A lot of numbers going on, mixing up a lot of numbers. But so it's like, okay, is Kool-Aid going to be covering Jackson Smith and Jigba? And are we putting Kool-Aid back at cornerback 1? Or are we keeping Isaac Adam or hopefully Quincy Riley and putting him on cornerback or on wide receiver 1? Like, that's going to be the conversation that's going to happen throughout the game. I could easily see the Saints finally being done with Isaac Adam not playing well because I do not think he's going to have a good game again. And I think the Seahawks are going to target him. And again, this is a Kubiak offense we are playing. We didn't talk about it, but Clint Kubiak is the offensive coordinator of the Seahawks. This is going to be a zone run, play action game. That might kill the Saints because the offensive line could really, really dominate the interior defensive line of the Saints. I don't know about the edge rushers, but I can still see it get ugly. The cornerbacks are going to have all the pressure on them. So it's going to be what I'm watching the entire game.
Yeah, and look, one of the things that concerns me with this play action team is, well, actually, let me first go to what you're saying about the wide receivers versus defensive backs. So last week, I believe, since it's since it is a zone heavy defense, I don't think that the Saints are actually matching Yitem up with Pearsall. I think it's actually the opposite is the 49ers wanted that matchup. I don't think
Yeah.
the 49ers wanted to see Kool-Aid, so they would throw
Mhm.
Pearsall over there where Yitem would have to guard him, and Yitem didn't do a great job doing it. This week is going to have to be a little different. So Jackson Smith-Njigba's biggest plays come out of the slot. He is a big
Okay.
slot guy. He is a slot guy, which means you're probably looking at Alontae Taylor
Yeah,
to
Lante has a
take that
big game.
matchup on. And to be honest with you, I like the Saints matchup here the most out of all of them. I like Alontae Taylor taking on JSN, and what's probably going to be Kool-Aid is most of the time going to be on Cooper Kupp. I think those are favorable matchups, not for the Saints, but I'd rather that than the other way around, where now you
Yeah,
got
like
Alontae Taylor and Cooper Kupp and
yeah,
Kool-Aid on JSN.
Kool-Aid, like if because there's not a big size difference because Marvin Harrison was beating Kool-Aid just like you could throw it up to Marvin Harrison. Like that's not that big of an issue with
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp. And that's a really good point about Alontae Taylor also in the slot. Like Alontae Taylor had a really good first half last game. Like he had a good first half. The second half was horrible. He let up more receptions than Isaac Adam and yards, I'm pretty sure. And let up the Christian McCaffrey touchdown before the end of the half, who he probably could have made a play. So like he had an ugly game last week. He needs to bounce back this game because once again, if there was one player that we kind of felt in the cornerback room a little comfortable about going into this season, it was Alontae. And there's no way that he could play bad and you feel comfortable at this room in any way, shape, or form.
And what it is the play action, because play action is going to be big in these cornerbacks matchups because the Saints pass rush, like I said, they're actually, despite having 8 sacks, their pressure numbers aren't as big as you would expect, especially from Carl Granderson and Chase Young's not on the field, obviously, but these are two guys that led the league in top 10 last year in pressures. They're not getting as much pressure as you would have expected for a team that has these 8 sacks. You need to get pressure on Sam Darnold, especially in this offense, because play action is either going to kill the Seahawks with the amount of pressure that they're going to allow, or it's going to kill the Saints. Because let's not overlook that the Saints haven't been great stopping the run either. Play action becomes real lethal when you can't stop the run, and you have to overload the box, and now your cornerbacks are on an island, or you just continue to let them rush for 5-6 yards of carry. The Saints haven't been great stopping the run. Clint Kubiak is a big. We know what the Clint Kubiak offense is. We saw it last year. Hell, it made the Saints look like Super Bowl contenders after 2 weeks, right? So, we know how much that offensive scheme can transform an offense. And yes, they have Sam Darnold, which is a first-year quarterback for them. They have a lot. They don't have DK Metcalf anymore. They don't have Tyler Lockett. Like they're a brand new team in a sense, but they have a lot of guys that stand out in this first-year offense. You have to take advantage of the fact that these are these guys' for third game ever in this offense. All of these guys, third game ever. The Saints have to take advantage of that, but unfortunately, on the flip side, this is the Saints' third game ever in this defense. It's a lot of going to be young teams going at it, and what I want to see in my form of key matchups for this is, can the Saints stop putting themselves in third and long? That has been the absolute killer. I'm surprised you see any success with Spencer Rattler, considering he has to face third and long constantly. Look, they had 8 penalties last week, and we were like, thank God, right? Like that's how bad it was. What was it? A total of 16 penalties week 1,
Yeah, it was
13
around there.
accepted,
It was bad.
and they had 8 or 7 penalties last week, and we were happy about that. That's terrible. The Saints should look. You shouldn't go over 5 penalties at all. Maybe you can average a penalty a quarter. We saw the Giants bench their guy who had 4 penalties in one drive. Right? There's a lot of problems with having these penalties, and these problems are putting the Saints in third and long. Sacks are putting the Saints in third and long. Inefficient running. I need to see the Saints not do that to themselves. Set Spencer Rattler up with third and short, and then when third and short, if we're going to run the ball, can we please run the ball up the middle? I know it sounds terrible idea, but if you want to run the ball. If you want to run the ball on third down, stop losing yards.
Yeah, and I just thought about it also. This could be a very good hurry up game because if, in my opinion, your worry for the Seahawks defensive line is the interior. So if you're going to make any defensive lineman tired, it's the interior, and it's because you're running hurry up. Like this could be a really good hurry up game, and I'm not one that's like, you should do it a lot in a game because I think, again, injuries, tired, and penalties, it could all be an issue. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints have more penalties than last week because they run more hurry up. But I could definitely see that being done in this game.
And my final topic, I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, is their secondary is so beat up.
Yeah.
Get Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed. Neither of these guys have had a great game over the 2 weeks now. These are, am I wrong for saying some of the most electric and potential wide receivers in the league? Rashid Shaheed will take the top off of any defense, and Chris Olave, he has a potential that you just feel like he has not tapped yet. And get them started. The Saints wanted 23 targets for Chris Olave in 2 weeks. You're going against a Tariq Woolen is going to be, if Devin Witherspoon's out, if Julian Love's out, if Nick Monhuare is out. Tariq Woolen has not played good football through 2 weeks. He has struggled. Ricky Pearsall's beat him. He has not played great football. Chris Olave might be a great matchup for you. Now, Tariq Woolen, really fast guy, so you probably won't beat him over the speed, but there's a lot of ways. They had a lot of miscommunications in their week 1 game. I actually watched most of it preparing for the 49ers, and that's where a lot of Ricky Pearsall's plays have come with miscommunication on, as you were saying, actually, on hurry up, on quick. They got to get the ball. A lot of defensive miscommunications, and Ricky Pearsall put them into field goal range, I believe it was, or put them into the red zone. Not the red zone. Yeah, the red zone. Put them into the red zone so they can eventually take the lead.
And this could be Mason Tipton's first game of the season also with the Vele and Palmer injuries if they are continuing and that it does stop them from playing in this game or makes them go out of this game earlier. Like this could be the first Mason Tipton game because he's on the roster, but he just hasn't played because he's been behind everyone. But now there's going to be an open spot. Not the contested catch wide receiver that you want, but we could see some of plays with him on the field.
Yeah, and look, we've seen Kellen Moore do it perfectly twice now, where he wants to get his playmakers involved, and just in an instant he does. It was Rashid Shaheed week 1, and then was it also Rashid Shaheed week 2? It's Chris Olave. Either way, they're drawing up targets for Chris Olave, and we saw him efficiently get Rashid Shaheed the ball when he wasn't even on the field for half the snaps on the first half, right? So they have plays drawn up for these guys. They have a vision for these guys. They just need to get it going. And then again, Juwan Johnson. I could talk about Juwan Johnson all day, so I'm not going to. Just another guy that you can get going. He has shown now through 2 weeks the ability to take over. I've been really into fantasy football this year. He's the second on sleeper, at least on PPR.
Yeah,
he's tight end too.
Yeah, he's going to have a big game. There's no way he doesn't have another big fantasy game. Like if he's the only contested catch threat, Seahawks safety's injured. This is the perfect just matchup for Juwan Johnson to have a massive game. He cannot start the game with drops, though. I'll be mad. Because
even if Devon Vele's good to go, Juwan Johnson has still been that guy. So
yeah.
So I think no matter what, Juwan Johnson's another guy to watch out for this. All right, yeah. But I think do you want to go ahead and add something real quick?
No, I was just agreeing.
All right, well, I think we're going to move on to what is our final predictions and bold predictions. I have a fun bold prediction, so I want you to go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, I have one bold prediction, and you're going to hate it. I think Spencer Rattler's throwing for more than 40 pass attempts in this game. I think really this Seahawks defense, again, the hurry up changes things, but the hurry up is going to help with the pass game, and it's going to get open wide receivers. I really think the Seahawks run defense is going to really hurt the Saints in this game, and I don't see any running back on this roster making the big plays that they could. I think if they're going to force Alvin Kamara the ball, it's going to be on short passes, and it's going to be on hopefully a running back screen. Like I don't see the Seahawks affecting or I don't see the Saints making a difference in the run game. So that's why I think that it's going to be less of Kellen Moore like forgetting about the run, which what we've seen. I legitimately think the Saints won't be able to run. And that's why Spencer Rattler will have to throw for so many yards or so many attempts.
So I'm going to go to my bold prediction, then we'll give our final predictions. Okay, so it's something about those color rush uniforms in Seattle that every time I think about the Saints facing Seattle, I have a play ingrained in my mind from 2019. Teddy Bridgewater took over for Drew Brees the first game. We didn't know if Teddy Bridgewater would be able to handle, taking over Drew Brees. I believe he went 5-0 in that span. But what really happened during that span, Teddy Bridgewater, he played well. The Saints team around him played well. And one of the biggest plays that showed me that was going to happen in 2019 was a Deontay Hardy took a punt return all the way to the house. I think about that play every time I think about Saints versus Seahawks. And what would you know? The Saints have a Pro Bowl punt returner this year, or a Pro Bowl punt returner over the past couple years in Rashid Shaheed. So my bold prediction is Rashid Shaheed is going to take a punt return to the house in the color rushes to debut the white helmets. Look, I've been thinking about it all week. I know in Canal Street Chronicles we do our bold predictions. We didn't get to do bold predictions this week. I was happy to say that one. I was eager to say it, so I didn't get a chance to do it there. So I'm saying it. I'm calling it now. I'll put my money where the mouth is. I'm placing the parlay. Okay, I think the Saints will finally get a punt return to the house. We saw Rashid Shaheed do it last year. I don't remember what game it was, but Rashid Shaheed had a punt return for a touchdown last year. And I think he puts one on the board again this year against Seattle in the color rushes.
My God, it would be so important for this team also to get a touchdown from special teams, because the special teams have been so bad to start the season. Oh, I would be so hyped from that. That would be amazing.
All right. So now, who's your winner and what's your final score?
So last week, I said that I was still going to probably pick the Saints because I'm a homer and also it's a winnable game. I lied. I am not picking the Saints to win this game. There's no way, looking at the matchups, legitimately, I think the Saints, besides potentially the Saints wide receivers versus the Seahawks cornerbacks, lose this game, like every single other matchup. I can't pick the Saints. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game also. I think it's going to be, as I said, a lot of passing attempts by Spencer Rattler, but the Seahawks are very good in the red zone. I think they're going to allow these Saints to get in the red zone and rely on Blake Rupe, which I can say a lot about that. That hasn't been great either. I think it's going to be I think I had a crazy score, like 16-12 potential scoregami score. Like, I truly think it could be a low-scoring game and the Seahawks winning.
And I'm going to kind of go along with you here because I picked Saints to win week 1 because I thought they would get an outlier win. They didn't get it. And then the injuries happened to the 49ers week 2, and I'm like, well, this is the Saints' chance. I can't pick the 0-2 Saints, who I've said myself, I believe the Saints are going to go 5-6 wins this year. I don't think they're going to be great this year. So who am I to say that and then go 3 weeks in a row and saying I think the Saints are going to win 3 weeks in a row? Okay, I'll put a little bit of bias away. I'll put anything I have. Look, to be realistic, the Saints are 0-2, and now the Seahawks haven't done anything great. And I genuinely think it's a winnable game for the Saints. We've seen that the Saints have been in winnable situations over the past 2 weeks. So if the Saints win, I'm not surprised. I think it's winnable. I just can't in myself go 0-3 on the year on Saints picks and be like, I think the Saints are winning 6 games. I'm going to pick the Saints to win every week. All right. So I'm going to pick the Saints to lose. I was going to have it as a 20-14 win for the Seahawks, but my prediction is the Saints get a punt return for a touchdown. So the Saints only scoring one other touchdown would feel pretty bad. I'll change it a little bit to have Seahawks 24, Saints 17, add a field goal in there for the Saints offense. So I think it's going to be 24-17. Seahawks get the win. But trust me, I am not surprised if the Saints come away with a win here.
Yeah, and like with my prediction, I could see it 2 ways. I could see the Saints legitimately not scoring a touchdown, and that's not Spencer Rattler playing bad. I think that's just the red zone defense is going to be very good for the Seahawks. And like I could see Spencer Rattler throwing for, as I said, a lot of passes, more than 200 yards, but just not getting that touchdown because of how good their red zone defense is. So I think Blake Rupe is going to have, I know he's been missing field goals, but I think he could hit 4 field goals in this game, and that's all the Saints score. Or I could see the Saints scoring a touchdown, missing an extra point, and scoring 2 field goals. Like, those are 2 different things that I could see because I don't trust Blake Rupe in any way, shape, or form. So he can make some field goals, but he's not going to be 100%. And if there was ever a time to miss an extra point, I think it's this game.
Yeah, it's very much upsetting seeing Blake Rupe not be to the level that me and Nick talked over and over. I mean, I haven't felt comfortable in my kicker in a long time going into this year with how well he's played over training camp, preseason, everything. I was ready to just with Caleb go for the all-pro Blake Groupie campaign, especially with how many field goals you expect him to kick with a young quarterback. But he hasn't been that. I think he's already ruled out for all-pro. I mean, 2 misses this early on. I mean, you can't miss the ball for the rest of the year.
And game-changing misses. Like, each one would have been so important for the final score.
Yep. So, but with that being said, that is our final picks. That is our bold predictions. We told you guys how we think the Saints could win. We told you how we don't think the Saints will win. But with that being said, make sure you guys tune in with us on Monday morning as we recap the Saints versus Seahawks matchup. Hopefully by then we'll have all 4 guys here. We'll have the episode up, and see you guys next time.